Michael, this is an issue that you've taken on for a good part of your career. You led Reputation.com for a very long time to tackle these very kinds of issues. What do you make of how the EU is handling it versus the United States?
It's a good question. Look, first of all, this topic is very hard for American viewers and American business people to understand because we have a very expansive understanding of what the First Amendment or free speech means in the United States. That's not the case in Europe. It's important for you to understand as viewers that it's not the case in Europe. In Europe, in fact, speech is not perfectly protected, including political speech, including inciting speech, including hate speech. So there's a long history of very radical violence in Europe that has been met with legislation, constitutional changes over the decades that create a situation that's different from the American situation. So that's the first thing to understand. So this question is normal in Europe. The second thing is Europe is very serious about it. There are two basic axes of problem or difference that these companies are facing. First of all, they're not responding fast enough according to the EU regulators, but also secondly, the EU wants them to take a more expansive view of what constitutes inciting or what constitutes hate speech. They don't think these companies are taking it seriously. And now in America, these topics are coming up more and more. We see the impact of the spread of fake news, which is a kind of inciting here in America. We know now that the Russians were spreading fake news in the United States to affect the election. Maybe they did. We now know even that General Flynn, one of Donald Trump's nominees, spread and respread some very, very fake and vitriolic news that was obviously fake about the Clinton campaign, about pedophilia. So this is a real live and present question. From a business perspective, there's an important item here. Facebook, for example, which is an amazing company led by amazing people, is in a very unusual position. On the one hand, they have to say with a straight face, look, hate speech and the spread of fake news doesn't really impact our viewers because our viewers and our audience don't really take that stuff seriously when they read it. At the same time, they have to say, hey, look, we're the best advertising platform in the world, and our audience and our participants take the stuff that they see on our pages so seriously that they will buy stuff when they see your advertisements if you're a large corporate advertising on our platform. So it's a very, very delicate situation.
But what do you think Facebook should do? I mean, should Facebook be behaving more like a media company than a technology company? Should Facebook be taking greater responsibility for monitoring or moderating fake or inaccurate news?
I think that's a very good question. Maybe the answer is yes, but there's another thing in technology here that might actually point the way. So the law in the United States actually gives deep protection to copyright. So if Facebook or YouTube or Microsoft or Twitter receives notice that the photograph that is being shared is under copyright of an owner and the owner does not want it distributed or shared in a way that violates his or her copyright, well, all of a sudden those companies have to take very swift action to remove or otherwise segregate those copyrighted materials. As a result, what has been born is a series of technology solutions that allow them to limit the impact and distribution of those copyrighted materials that once they're on notice. The same thing has never really happened with speech or hurtful speech or even sort of emotionally violent speech. A video, for example, of a little kid being beat up online. There's no law that requires one of these pages to remove it if they're put on notice. And so they've never actually had to develop technology. So I think there's a technology solution here. Whether or not it's a media company or a platform company, I do think technology can solve some of these problems, whether it's Europe or America. And I have confidence they can if they want to. If they decide they want to, they will.